What happens when machines begin single-handedly solving the complex math problems we as a community have been stumped on for more than 2 decades? May 24th, year 2000, the 7 Millennium Prize problems were released to the public, marking a very significant cultural milestone for the mathematical community. Each problem was worth $1 million, and they were each uniquely designed to push the limits of human intellect and mathematical understanding. But with the recent rise of AI, this cultural milestone is being challenged. This inquiry led me to investigate the evolving ethics of AI in mathematics, specifically in relation to the Millennium Prize problems. Through a mixed methodological study, I will be addressing this research inquiry. How do the Millennium Prize problems show the evolving priorities, challenges, and philosophical values of modern mathematics, and how is the rise of artificial intelligence reshaping both their pursuit and their cultural significance in today's field of research? Before advancing to my hypothesis, a review of literature is necessary for one to understand the complexity of the Millennium Prize problems and why my studies focus on the rise of artificial intelligence. My review of literature does not necessarily investigate specific sources, but is an overall view of 9 sources. Priorities in math are very different than the actual configuration of the Millennium Prize problems. Most of the problems relate to ideas outside of classical mathematics, like the Navier-Stokes equations connect to fluid dynamics and engineering. Yang-Mills touch on the foundational issues in theoretical physics. P versus NP look at theoretical computer science and practical computation. To look at the problems more philosophically and culturally, modern practices value collaborative methods while also being able to navigate the boundaries of proof methods. This idea discusses whether computer-assisted programs have the same values as human-created ones. But now, AI is driving development in this evolution. AI is contributing to research in ways that humans thought was once impossible. AI is beginning to show success in areas that relate to the problems. First, AI has brought tools for deep exploration, allowing quicker exploratory phases of research. Second, AI challenges traditional ideas about proof and understanding. While this can create tension, it also creates an approach in accepting machine-aided results. Finally, AI changes the cultural importance of the Millennium Problems. AI is beginning to dominate areas that were once dominated by humans, and it will most likely affect mathematics public perception. Now that we've taken a glance at existing literature, it is important to identify a gap. There are already existing works in the Millennium Prize problems history, philosophy of proof, and AI in mathematics, but there are little to no studies that combine historical and philosophical views with the data on how active researchers view the problems in modern-day research fields and how AI may change ethical practices. Now, before advancing to the methods that I use to address this gap, it's important to recognize my hypothesis. I hypothesize mathematicians who have experience with AI will be likely to view machine-assisted approaches as actual contributions, while those with little or even no AI experience will emphasize traditional values like mathematical elegance or human intuition. I also made a strong assumption before researching that AI is indeed relevant to mathematics and is actively influencing math. I investigated my inquiry with a research design composed of a qualitative document analysis and interviews with 2 mathematicians. I then sent out a survey to 45 mathematicians. The qualitative phase provided an in-depth understanding and context about values and perceptions. My quantitative phase tested if those perceptions are seen amongst a larger sample size. For my first phase of research, I collected scholarly articles and essays on the Millennium Prize problems, their cultural background, the philosophy and beauty of mathematics, and concerns of the role of AI in mathematics. I put a lot of focus in trying to identify recurring themes. Choosing scholarly documents allowed me to create a strong foundation in my findings section. For my second phase of research, I conducted 2 semi-structured interviews with mathematicians who either had background in artificial intelligence or the Millennium Prize problems. This was conducted via Zoom, and they were initially contacted through email. I recorded each interview, which ended up being approximately half an hour each, and analyzed them for a deeper understanding. I then compared the 2 to determine any recurring themes, very similarly to the way I compared the 2 in phase 1. For my third and final phase, I distributed a survey that I originally created on Google Docs. I issued my survey to numerous groups of people, experts in AI, professionals and professors in various subcategories, and active mathematical researchers. For this analysis, I looked at frequency and percentages of different questions and compared the results. After implementing these methods, I found 6 main themes. Overall, they show that AI isn't just helping solve problems, it's actually changing our values in mathematics. We see shifts in priorities, evolving ideas, and even reshaping what it means to solve a problem. There's also influence from a personal background and a growing role of AI in how students approach math. To understand where these patterns are coming from, I first looked at document-based evidence. Document analysis revealed three major themes, including shifting research priorities, evolving ideas about proof and legitimacy, and cultural changes in how mathematical achievement is understood. I constantly found that the Millennium Prize problems sit at the intersection of several fields, not just classical mathematics. Arthur Jaffe quotes that these problems may widen one's focus on pure math, but rather focus on the beauty of problems whose solutions may impact several fields. The Millennium Problems represent a broader shift in what mathematicians consider important, not just elegant theory, but problems with real scientific and analytical impact. Another theme centered on how AI is challenging traditional ideas about what counts as a valid or meaningful mathematical proof. Several documents raise concerns about whether machine-generated proofs can meet long-standing expectations for clarity and human understanding. One document noted machine-generated solutions may provoke questions about clarity and explanation. This shows that there are growing debates about human intuition in math. Other sources describe hybrid workflows where AI generates conjectures or outlines that humans must interpret themselves. These ideas suggest that AI is doing more than just speeding up research. It's pushing mathematicians to reconsider legitimacy in an era of machine-assisted proofs. The final theme involved the cultural meaning of the Millennium Prize problems. These problems have symbolized the height of human creativity and intellectual achievement. However, several authors argued that AI's rapid progress is changing how both mathematicians and the public think about mathematical accomplishment. Some even suggest AI may displace human creativity. Others pointed out that public awareness of the problems is already low, which may complicate how they interpret AI breakthroughs. AI is reshaping not only how math is done, but the way it's understood. The document analysis highlights broader trends in how AI is reshaping mathematics, but it does not exactly capture personal perspectives. To capture these perspectives, I conducted interviews with two mathematicians. Both interviewees emphasized that the mathematical beauty comes from the existence of multiple solution pathways. Interview 1 explains that there's a lot of beauty in looking at different ways that problems can be solved. There is a belief that beauty is tied to exploration and freedom to reason. They also described rigor as extending beyond a correct answer. Interviewee 2 explains that you can technically have a correct proof, but you can still fail to explain on why it even happens. On the other hand, interview 1 explains it emphasizes the dismissal of real student work because of the easy access they have to AI tools. These perspectives align back to the document analysis, differentiating validity and human comprehension. Both interviewees emphasize the influence of a student's background in the way that they engage with math. Some students view math as using a formula to get to an answer, and others see it as a creative learning process. Interviewee 2 quotes, "We are our entire selves in the classroom." These ideas suggest mathematics is deeply connected to identity and prior experiences with math. Furthermore, both talked about how AI is reshaping practices, but they both went about it in different ways. Interviewee 1 explains how AI can be used to verify knowledge, while interviewee 2 explains how AI may shift attention towards mathematical thinking. Finally, when speaking of the Millennium Prize problems, they both tied them back to broader cultural values. Participant 1 explains them as standing on the shoulders of giants. Interviewee 2 explains that the problems create a community and a focal point for mathematicians, even amongst researchers who may be working in different fields. While interviews provided detailed insight, I conducted a survey to find if these insights were seen amongst a larger group. Most mathematicians reported 20 to 30 years of mathematical experience, enhancing the strength of my research. However, many of them reported low familiarity rates with the Millennium Prize problems. An overwhelming large population, 37 respondents, use AI tools in their mathematical work. However, in contradiction to that statistic, many of them showed low confidence in the reliability of AI proofs, but most participants strongly believe that AI will play a major role in solving unsolved problems. This contradiction suggests that the respondents can distinguish AI's current roles with the long-term potential that it may hold. In an open-ended question about how AI has changed what it means to solve a problem, many of them suggested it as a spectrum, from computational confirmation to formal verification to genuine conceptual understanding. This suggests that AI can contribute to certain stages of problem solving, but the highest levels can be left to human intellect. Participants overall agreed that the Millennium Prize problems are not well known by the public, indicating a gap between mathematical culture and public awareness. Now, when we put these data sources together, a few key insights stand out. Both qualitative and quantitative data showed that the cultural meaning of the Millennium Prize problems is changing. Interviewees described the problems as symbols of collaboration and shared purpose, while documents raised concern on how AI may shift attention away from human creativity. Survey respondents mostly agreed that the public does not understand these problems very well, which may further complicate how they interpret AI breakthroughs. These findings show that AI is not simply a new tool in mathematics. Instead, it is reshaping how mathematicians think about beauty, rigor, legitimacy, and the cultural significance of the major unsolved problems. These findings lead to a new understanding of the Millennium Prize problems themselves. Historically, they symbolize human creativity, elegance, and the pursuit of deep ideas. But my findings suggest that their cultural role is changing. Interviewees described mathematics as collaborative in general, while documents pointed out AI's involvement may take away from creativity. And survey respondents show that the public barely even recognizes these problems at all. Altogether, the problems reflect a new identity, balancing beauty and rigor that blend human ideas and artificial intelligence. While this new understanding offers important insight, there are still limitations to consider. The largest relies on the participation of others. I had initially contacted approximately 450 professionals and received a low response rate of 1.5%. Because I could not receive the abundant data that I initially anticipated I would, this creates a possible skew in my final findings. I also experienced technical difficulties as I was researching on a school-provided device with heavily set restrictions. This created a strong buffer in my research. Finally, there's always room for human error. I could have incorrectly transcribed an interview or misinterpreted an open-ended survey response, especially with a large percentage of my participants being based in China, creating a possible language barrier. After addressing these limitations, further research can be built. Researchers could explore how different mathematical subfields view AI's role in proof and understanding. Long-term studies could track how attitudes shift as AI tools become more common, and comparative studies could examine how different fields like mathematicians, computer scientists, philosophers, and even more could look at the roles of AI in math. As AI continues to evolve, so will the standards and values that shape mathematical work. The Millennium Prize problems that were once symbols of pure human achievement may now offer ways to understand how mathematics is redefining itself in a time where machines and humans think together. Thank you. There's my works cited.
All right, question number 1. How did your initial exploration of the scholarly conversation lead you to your final research question?
Yes, so I have always been one who's interested in math. So a lot of my social media feed and news feed revolve around mathematics, which led to my initial exploration of the Millennium Prize problems. But as I looked further into the Millennium Prize problems, I realized that they were much beyond of my understanding. So I have been one who's always believed strongly in AI roles of math. So I decided to tie that into my research, and that is what led me to show how AI plays a role in the cultural significance of the Millennium Prize problems.
Thank you.
What was the most important research skill you developed as a result of this process, and how might you apply it to your future endeavors?
Yes, so I definitely developed great patience and communication skills in this process. As I already said, I received very low response rates, so that increased my patience by a lot and gave me a real view and opened my eyes on what actual research looks like. And I developed strong communication skills and email etiquette through this. So when I go to college, as I think I will, if I ever decide to do a more in-depth research process, then I can use this email etiquette and this communication skills that I learned through this process.
Last question. What are the real-world implications or consequences related to your findings?
Yeah, so with the recent rise of artificial intelligence, it's very easy to have implications in the real world. You could imply the collaborations methods of mathematics in current research fields, and I also think that we could show my findings, not necessarily the mathematical concepts of it, but the collaboration methods to school systems. So rather than taking away AI from students, we could show them these collaborative methods and teach them how to work with AI rather than letting it do the work for them. Okay.